Hello, hello, Rich, Carl. Thank you for joining. I hope you can hear me properly. I'm in the basement and the lab right now. I'm just evaluating some materials here, and we're gonna talk about a couple of random things here. Hey, Yakuba, thanks for joining. Alex, thanks for joining. And I don't want to mispronounce your name. I think it's Juan. Good evening. All right. So I'm just in the lab here. I'm just evaluating some materials that I'm trying to work around. There is this uh, ingredient is called Melissa, and it has some aromatic facets to it, but also some lemony, citrusy tones attached to it. And I'm trying to create a citrus-based fragrance that is not too typical of the what we usually get with bergamot and stuff like that. So I'm working around that. I'm evaluating it to know how that will work in the composition. But today we're going to be talking about uh, discussing, I should say, um, talking about Emperor Hen here. And I want to say thank you to one person that was kind of generous to actually send me this bottle. Is not mine. So I'm going to be reviewing it. Thank you for your generosity there. It kind of surprised me because this is a really expensive fragrance, and I was given the opportunity to actually wear it and sample it. I'm not sure how many have tried this fragrance here by Dixit and Zach. It's called Emperor Hen. I'm curious to know before I start if anybody loves it, enjoys it, or excited to try it. So far this year, I think I've tried only three of their releases. The first one that they released. Hey, Yakuba, you have one. Okay, very well done. Okay, yep, I can say that. Alex as well. Is really funky one. It's poopy, huh? You don't like Banya Oud? Hey, thanks, Max. Thanks for joining. Okay. It seems like everybody at least agrees that is a well done fragrance. Oh, I have to agree with that. Well, before I give you my verdict or what I think of it, so far, what I've been able to get out of this one, it did remind me a little bit of um, some of the fragrances from Arège Dore, um, specifically Oud Zen. But then I went back and I actually wore Oud Zen. Actually, this one, Oud Zen, when I first received it, um, it smelled like dirty socks to me, and I couldn't wear it. So it's been a couple of years now and it's become much sweeter. So I really enjoy it now. And I did get some type of vibe coming from the oud, like in comparison, the type of oud that is used here, I get nuances in oudzen, but they're not too similar. But the first time I sprayed this one, it kind of reminded me of oudzen, but after trying it properly, um, there were some big differences when I compared to oudzen. Essentially, this fragrance though is so well blended when you compare it to Brindaban and then Rising My Soul from the same house. I would say so far, I've not tried the first release. So far, this one is really well blended to the point where when I was comparing to the other three, I felt like this one didn't captivate me that much. Don't get me wrong, it's a really well balanced fragrance. It's really smooth. But I think what I was expecting out of this one is something that could grab me like what Brindaban does. Brindaban is smooth, but it has also rough edges around it. And I think that's what I enjoy it. Emperor Hen is really smooth. It seems like the texture is almost too polished for me. But overall, the composition is stunning. You can tell that they're getting better and better at blending their ingredients and are leveling things together. Alex, yeah, somebody told you you need to take a shower after wearing that. I can see that. Actually, so the bottle leaked a little bit, and the first when I brought this back to the house, I had it in a room, bedroom, and then my wife came in and then she told me what I was thinking. She did not like this, but she loves Brindaban. I don't know why, but I think the animalic facets that I get out of this one are pretty much they're not strong, but the ambergris that is used here like exalts it a lot, so you can smell it easily in the air. I didn't even spray it. I think it's from the bottle leaking and then it be sitting in the box there. It filled out our bedroom, and then she asked me to take it out. So, Alex, I can definitely understand why you were asked to take a shower there. So with that said, though, that means that this one, to my nose, or at least the reaction that I've had so far, is not going to be something that you can wear casually. It's not going to be something for compliments, for example. It's going to be something that you wear to kind of capture the nuances. Like I said, it's so smooth that it's really hard to capture all the nuances. But then, like just wearing it and then kind of trying to figure out what the facets are, it's kind of interesting. Definitely this year, if I have to compare with what Arejadore released and Bortnikov released, this one, the blending is just superb. Um, and I think maybe that's the downfall in terms of what I was looking for. Queer Carnage. I had a bottle of that, Rich, and then I I ended up selling it. I don't know what I didn't like in it, but it was early in my journey though, so I wasn't ready for it probably. So I ended up selling that one. But now, if I remember correctly, it was floral and then old school like smelling. It's something that I can enjoy now, but I already sold my bottle. So at the top though, so in the note breakdown of, let me see where do I think I have the note breakdown here. In the note breakdown, they mention a couple of citruses, I think white grapefruit and then some lemon and stuff like that. I get that, but it's briefly, like it's really brief at the top, and then after that is pretty much like darker exotic florals. The osmanthus I get a lot, and a combination of the jasmine and then the rose, the lemon, and then the pink grapefruits is really quick at the top. It burns off really fast before that beautiful animalic set of floral, dark exotic florals come into play. And I also get in the base though something that is reminiscent of champaka lead incensey feel attached to it, and I think it's coming from the sandalwood, the champaka. There's myrrh here. They're using frankincense as well, and amber fossil. That one slightly incensey, but also has leathery facets attached to it, and I think it plays really well with the indie oud that they're using here with that leathery animalic tone attached to it. Styrax. So I'm not sure if he's referring to liquid amber or benzoin Styrax. They're different type of scent profiles here, but from what I'm smelling, I don't get like an overly sweet tone attached to this one. So I will go with the liquid amber, something that is slightly more on the darker side, slightly leathery profile to it to play off of the indie oud, and then uh, what else? Hyraceum too, animalic, and then the civet. I don't get specifically the civet, but I'm sure is there among the other animalic notes there. But I get like two different tiers. So I get the quickly vanishing citruses at the top. I get the lemon, but then is quickly overwhelmed with the floral, dark floral. So the osmanthus, the jasmine, a little bit of rose. The champaka comes later, but is blended with the sandalwood and gives off that slightly incensey, uh, ashy like feel when you combine sandalwood and then some of the amber fossil amber and then the champaka note there. So I do get that in the dry down, and a little bit of sweetness coming from the sandalwood in the dry down. That's pretty much what I get. A lot of animalic notes attached to it, and then it's musky as well. But with all that being said, though, there's this smooth thing that flows throughout the fragrance. It's not going to be as rough as some of the Arish Dore, like the earlier version of Arish Dore fragrances, if you've tried those. So it's really smooth. So let me see if I can catch up with the comments here. Hey, Robert is here. Thanks for joining. Oh, both Roberts. Fragrance Journey, thanks for coming. How would you compare the Dixie and Zach House? Okay, so I have a question here. Oscar, thank you. So from Yakuba, how would you compare Dixie and Zach to houses such as Irish and Bortnikov? Their first release was in 2019, but they took the market by storm with 4 releases. Okay, so I think if I have to compare all three fragrance houses, similar background in the sense that they had like some type of expertise before they ventured in the perfumery, like perfume spray type of fragrances. I think Zakir owns, well, he dwelled a lot into Atars. Feel Oud, owned by yeah, I think is owned by a Russian Adam, but I think Bortnikov also works with him as well. So they have that background. We're working with raw materials, ouds, and stuff like that. Um, when I think about how fast Dixit and Zach were able to release the fragrances, it seems like they've been working on these like for a while. It's not something that they just came out with. And then they were really smart to release them one at a time to give people like only one piece of focus. There was danger attached to that too. So because if you don't know the house and there's only one scent and you try that and you don't like it, the chances are you might not come back to it. But I think with their first release, I think it was a rose-based fragrance, and then Brindaban, for example. I think Brindaban is fantastic. So far, out of the four, I only tried three. So Brindaban, Rising, Mysore, uh, here, and then Emperor Hen. My favorite out of the bunch, to be honest, is Brindaban. Rough edges to it, but really well done. And I think what is separating in my eyes, the House of Dixit and Zach versus Arish Ladure is they're using a lot of uncommon notes. The what is it called again? I'm forgetting. I'm blanking out. But they're using a lot of florals in Brindaban here that I'm not really familiar, and I don't think most people know about the type of florals that they're using here. So it sets them apart from the Arijo Dore. They focus too much, I think, on oud centric fragrances, floral centric fragrances. Bortnikov, for example, tends to do that a lot. I would love to see Arish Ladore or Bortnikov like branch out a little bit and then kind of step away from the oud. Even if they use oud, maybe like as a supporting note, but come up with something different. Because I mean, when you think about all the releases that Arish Ladore did until recently, where he's changing the theme a little bit, um, it's hard to keep buying their fragrances after one release after another because there's a lot of overlap that are happening there. But they're all three fantastic houses. So far, I'm really intrigued by what Dixit and Zach are able to do. Okay, yep, Robert. The age patchouli in the DNA of Dixit and Zach are yeah unmatched, just gorgeous. Yes, and then you can see that in there's that repeating theme throughout the house. So that might be the DNA there, Robert. I think you got that right. Paired with the sandalwood too, it gives this smooth incense. Um, it is not even earthy. The type of patchouli that they're using here is really nice, really polished. So it doesn't stick out badly in their composition. And on top of that, they just add like interesting notes to them. Hey, Oscar, thank you. Hope you got some fragrance journey. The question is, I hope you got some animalic funk releasing soon. I'm still working on that. That's gonna take me a little bit of time because, like I said, today I'm evaluating some materials that I had for a while, but I've not studied them yet. There are a lot of musk or animalic ingredients that I have here that I have to go through and then study how they open, how they dry down, and how they will pair with other musks or other notes, and then see what I can build from there. So it's going to take me a while to build something that is good because I'm not really familiar with some of the animalic musks. Hey, Brendan, therapeutic fragrance. How you doing? You get on with. So, Rich, Brandon, how get on with 1920? I don't think I've tried in. Oh yeah, I've tried Relativamente Rosso from Voice 1920. Reminded me a little bit of Mitza. Fragrance Journey, thank you for stopping by. Scrolling back up to see some of the comments here. Emmanuel, thanks for joining. All right, yeah. Yeah, so all in all, I would say Emperor Hen is really good. It's really well done. It depends on what you're looking for. I was looking for something that is a little bit rough around the edges, but I didn't get that here. So if you're looking for something that is smooth, something that is really well blended, leather, animalics, dark exotic florals, some type of incensey feel attached to it, definitely give this one a try. A lot of musk and animalics, but not is not because of the ambergris. I can see it being really diffusive, and then people catching the animalic tones here. But the way it's so polished, I don't think is going to be something that is going to be challenging, especially if you've been in the fragrance journey for a while. So keep that in mind. I think they're already sold out though. I think I checked Etsy. I checked their official website, but also Nas Perfumes. I think they're in collaboration with Nas Perfume as well, but then they're already sold out. So speaks volume about the house. I think it's a fantastic release. I just missed out on that one, but like I said, my favorite will be Brindaban out of the house. Uh, hey Joe, thanks for joining. Yes, I'm still in Minnesota. It is cold actually here. That's why I have a hat and I'm kind of bundled up here. Hey, Brendan. Okay, so you're saying it is Emperor Hen is officially sold out. Won't have more stock until July, but there are going to be new fragrances. So it looks like they're sticking out. They're sticking with their limited releases. They're not trying to recreate part two and stuff like that. I'm curious to know what you all think about part two releases from the House of Arish Ladore, if you're fine with that, or you're kind of bitter about that. I don't think anything of it, to be honest. Like for example, I bought the first release of Udzen, um, and I think he had like no Cyber. I think it's Ottoman Empire, for example. Um, I think he released the second one, but it was slightly different. I don't mind more people enjoying the house, so but I can understand why some people will be mad if they're buying something with pressure rather quickly at those high prices, and later on they're being told that there's a second version coming out. Rich, yes, yeah, I loved his videos. He's really graphic in the way he's describing fragrances. I did enjoy watching his videos. I don't think he reviews anymore. I'm talking about Dakop. Okay, so I'm sure I'm gonna butcher the name. Okefi, show a video of your entire collection one day. I would love to see that. I don't know, like a collection video. That would be interesting. Feels like showing off. But yeah, maybe one day I might be able to do that. Right now, though, I'm kind of trimming down. So, and then maybe I'm going to be transitioning to some of the fragrances that I was able to get in 2019. Because I launched my own fragrance house here. I didn't have extra money to buy them. So what I ended up doing with the help of some good friends was able to swap or either sell some of my existing fragrances and then be able to afford some of these because after trying them, I really enjoyed them. So I wanted to have them still. So I had to trade off some of my fragrances to be able to gather some of the ones that I'm going to be showing off here. But I'm kind of consolidating that. And then also with perfuming, the issue with that is, for example, right now I'm evaluating this material here, which is called Melissa, is from Eden Botanical. Um, for a couple of weeks now, as I'm trying to find a combination that works really well for the fragrance that I'm, well, at least the picture that I'm trying to capture in the fragrance, I'm gonna have a hard time wearing my own, like the other fragrances in my collection. So they end up sitting while I'm testing fragrances and stuff like that. So it's really hard to find time to actually wear my own fragrances. So I kind of try to segment them where I'll go for like 2 weeks in a row. I don't wear any of my fragrances. Then I'll focus on trying some of the formulas that I've made to see how they evolve, how long they last, what is sticking out, what I don't like. Go back, remove some of the ingredients that I think are creating the effect that I don't like, and then kind of go back in and reformulate it again. Uh, so yeah, right now I'm trying not to buy too many fragrances. Doesn't mean that there are not we don't have good fragrances out there. Definitely a lot of good houses and good fragrances out there. It's just that I don't have the means right now and the time to just keep on adding fragrances in my collection and not have the time to wear it. Yes, Joe. Yes, I did try Abbey Rouge Low. Um, I would say it is one of the more modern take on Abbey Rouge. When you talk about the vintages, I think most people will like that better than the old school type of like the old school or older version of Abbey Rouge is something that can easily be something that is modern or interpreted as something that is modern, is easy to wear. Now, if you love that dense, rich DNA of Abbey Rouge, though, low might seem too diluted to you. So you might refrain from getting that one if you only love that heavy DNA of Abbey Rouge. But if you want something that is light enough but still preserve some of the facets of the Abbey Rouge DNA, you want something that you can easily wear during summer, I would say try that one. You just have to, and I don't think they're that expensive either. So you just have to wait for a good price and then get it. But you have to bear in mind that it's going to be something that is lighter, the Abbey Rouge DNA, but in a lighter way. Um, Centitar, how is the brand going? So far, so good. People are still ordering samples. I'm really surprised by that. Actually, when I first launched, I anticipated a lot of people, well, a small amount of people buying more samples, but I've been blessed enough that to the point that people are actually buying full bottles. So I only have only like few bottles left of some of the fragrances. The funny thing is, before we launched, I sent samples and then people gave me feedback. And then we decided to pick the ones that we're going to be releasing. And then with my wife, we bet on the ones that people will gravitate towards. And then the ones that I thought would be harder for people to um, get or appreciate, are the ones that are that people are loving actually. For example, Murmure Chypre, that one a lot of people love that, and then the Toma Azuma as well. So that was kind of a different twist of what I expected, but so far it's going well. Carl, will you sell me your Nabucco Parfum from 60 ml? I can't sell that. It's one of my favorites from that house. Actually, as a spicy scent is just amazing. I don't know why this well they didn't get the exposure that they needed, so not a lot of people knew about it. And I think the sales weren't good, so they ended up shutting down. Um, which is a shame because their fragrances are really well done. Um, Okay, so Okefi, sorry if I'm butchering your name here. Most of the offerings from Motif Olfactive are dark offerings. You have anything coming for summer? Yes. So actually, yeah, I have it right now. Is sitting and then macerating right now. So essentially, it's going to be a vetiver-based fragrance, and it's not something that I actually recently created. It's something that I created a long time ago. I sent that among the samples before I decided how many fragrances or which fragrance to launch on the first release. And then that vetiver fragrance was in that set. And then one person loved it to the point where they requested one bottle. So I ended up doing a small batch of that and then sending it to him, and then even loved that version. So just to pause here, there's a big difference between creating a test fragrance, for example, in this size, for example, in a 30 or 50 ml or 100 ml bottle, and then trying that and then creating it at a larger volume and then letting it sit for a while. The scent profile in the larger batches over time as it macerates and matures, it rounds up, and then some of the shading appear like more clear. It appears more rich. So going from a sample, especially when you're doing trial runs, is the scent is gonna be of a lesser quality sometime than when you produce it in bigger batches. So essentially, after I sent him the full bottle, he ended up loving it and then making a post about it. And then a couple of people did reach out then and ask me if they can get that as well. So I ended up telling them that I'm going to do that. Um, I was kind of stalling a little bit, and then a couple of times I got reminded that they're really interested in it. Some people even wanted to pre-buy it, so give me the funds so that I can buy the materials and actually produce it. I ended up telling them I'm going to take care of it. I don't want to promise that and then take somebody's money. I just want to do that myself. So I ended up doing it. So right now, um, the maturation piece is gone now. I'm just waiting for it to. Well, the maceration is gone now. I'm waiting for the maturation there. So it's gonna be. I'm rambling here. So it's gonna be around a vetiver, but it's gonna be a fresh take on vetiver. It's not gonna be overly rooty or earthy. There's bourbon vetiver in it, which has smoky facets. But then you also have Asian vetiver in it. And then you have that vetiver from Paraguay. They have slightly different scent profiles. Haitian vetiver is the one that is dominant in the scent profile, and I'm using the other vetivers to give a little bit of shading there. I think there's a little bit of fruit attached to it. At the end, I ended up adding sandalwood in it, Indian sandalwood, to kind of offset some of the texture there and give a little bit of smoothness to it. There's a little bit of incensey facet to give a freshness to the vetiver at the top as well. So it's going to be something that is going to work really well during spring and summer. So I've not decided yet when I'm going to be releasing that. I'm thinking maybe the first day of spring. So yeah, so that would be a lighter one. But if you don't like vetiver, I don't see you enjoying that. It's not going to be anything as dark as what you get from uh, Uncle Noir by Lalique, for example. Um, but if you love vetiver, it is worth sampling. And then later on, at the end of towards the end of the year. I've not worked yet on the release date. So before I even launch, I was working on a limited release. The reason why it's limited because it's going to be something that is going to contain a lot of expensive materials. And then one of the oud that I'm using, I got that about 3 years ago. When I contacted the person back in India, they told me that was long gone, so I can't get that oud. I've been trying to find an oud that would give me the same scent profile, but so far I've not been successful. So it's going to be a limited release. It is around my journey, like a trip that I took to Hawaii is not going to be a floral, like overly floral type of fragrance. It's going to be more on the darker, exotic type of florals, but it's going to be paired with animalic. You're going to get a lot of oud, two types of oud in there, and then you're going to get sandalwood. There are two types of sandalwood here. So Hawaiian sandalwood, which is creamy, but also has spicy facets attached to it. But then to amp up the creaminess of the sandalwood, I'm using Indian sandalwood and Centalol, which is well, when you think about Mysore sandalwood is really high in those components. So I just bought the pure Centalol and I added that to kind of amp up the creaminess of the sandalwood base there. It's going to be paired with the ouds. But then the type of florals that I'm using pink lotus. I'm using a lot of osmanthus, champaka for that incensey, beautiful pairing with the sandalwood base that I have there. So yeah, a little bit of jasmine as well. And at the top, I'm having a slightly foresty feel attached to it and a little bit of freshness attached to it, a little bit of aldehydes to it. So that one is going to be a limited release because I can't see myself producing that in larger quantities and over, especially with that wood being gone. Yeah, a lot of rambling here. Let me catch up with the comments. Spring now. Yeah, I think I'm getting tired, Rich. I'm getting tired of winter right now in Minnesota. So can't wait for spring and summer as well. Oscar, is any sentence? So okay, so the question from Oscar is there any scents that inspire you when you created your line? So not really. So the reason why I started the line is as I was playing with materials and stuff like that, and then started adding things together. I ended up figuring out that if I want to create something, I don't want to create something that I already have in my collection or something that I already sampled. Now there are defined fragrance families like Shipper and then Fougere, Orientals, and things like that. So no matter what you do, or you're going to have overlap, your fragrance being categorized as in one of these or overlapping between some of these families. But essentially, my goal here is to make sure that whenever I produce, because I'm going to be wearing that as well, whatever I make for in that line and I release in that line, I want it to be something that is different and not redundant in my collection. So essentially, not really close to anything that I've sampled. Of course, with my experience sampling fragrances and stuff like that, in your subconscious, there are certain things that stay there. So maybe in the formulation or when you have an idea in the way you're structuring your fragrances, there are some things that are gonna be drawn from your experience sampling other fragrances. The key is to make sure that you explore a lot of materials so you can use new or materials that are underutilized in the fragrance industry so that your stuff come a little bit more interesting and not redundant, I should say. So to some degree, my experience trying different fragrances from other houses, their knowledge that I've drawn from it, but not specifically studying a fragrance from another house and trying to replicate that or have a modified version of that. I've not done that so far. Alex. So Alex is asking, tough question. Do you think Emperor Hen is worth the price tag? That's a tough question indeed. I would have to say this is 30 ml, and I think is $260 inclusive of the shipping, if I remember correctly. I think Brandon mentioned that it was inclusive of included the shipping price. That's really hard for me to say. I would say for me, 30 ml, for the quality that you're getting, because you're not going to get that out there like anywhere else. Maybe Bortnikov or Arishadori might be able to come up with something like that. But I would say the price is steep for 30 ml. But then because of scarcity, though, a lot of people competing for the limited amount of bottles, I would say they're probably pricing it according to that. So it's hard to say. But I think personally, I think is expensive for 30 ml. But again, I'm not sure what the percentage of oud that they're using here. For example, if you go look at some of the ouds, 3 grams, for example, I'm sure they're not using up 3 gram here. But you think about ambergris that they're using, sandalwood, the oud that they're using. I think they're using jasmine sambac, which is expensive as well. It can add up pretty quickly. So, but again, I'm sure they're pricing it according to the demand there. Their prices have gone up and up and up and up since. So I don't know. Rich, are you selling anything? Probably. Because right now there are a couple of fragrances that I want in my collection. From I have to pick up some fragrances from Sultan Pasha. And right now, like I said, all my money is going to making the limited edition fragrance that I'm going to be releasing later this year because of the materials. They're really expensive. But what I'm going to be doing is selling some of the fragrances. So that's a great question. One that I know I'm going to be parting ways with is, let me grab it. This thing here, so is from the House of Royal Crown, and it's called Alchemia, which is a rose, like a slightly green, like a really light, watery rose type of scent. Um, I like it, but I don't see myself using that a lot. I already have Rojedov Nua, which is a rose, but it has a lot more volume to it. So this one, although is I think it is a beautiful summer, spring type of rose because of how light and the watery component that I get out of this one. But I don't see myself keeping this one because I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to be using it. So something like that, for example, I'm going to be selling that and then try to get some cards. Um, uh, what else that I might be selling? I'm not even sure. I need to go through my collection. I have some boxes that I've not opened in a long time. I know there are some fragrances in there that I even forgot about. So some of those might go up as well. Joe is asking, any thoughts of doing a fragrance class in Minnesota? Would love to learn from you. I'm still a beginner. I can share tips and all that, or we can meet and then we can go through things. Actually, I have a good friend. I'm not sure if he wants me to to say his name here, but we meet regularly to kind of chat and stuff like, hey, Mark, thanks for joining. Um, we meet. I meet with him. He's in Minnesota, and then sometime we'll come down here, and then he's not into perfume making, but he's a curious guy. So he will go through some of the materials and then kind of compare to what his perception of the material was before. And then sometimes it's kind of interesting seeing his face, kind of trying to find the association between, okay, this is what the material smells really smells like, and then some of the fragrances that I've tried and contain the material, it doesn't connect there. So it's really interesting. Like sometimes people would smell sandalwood and then smell that in a fragrance and then kind of feel like it is not giving them the same vibe because most sandalwoods are synthetic, and then they're amped up with sweetness attached to it. So it's really different. Civet is the same thing, not the paste or diluted. It's the same thing. People think is really pungent and then really animalic. I guess depends on where you are. but I think castoreum is dirtier than civet, for example, at least for me. But for him, trying those ingredients here, it was really interesting as a start, like at a start, to know what some of the fragrances or ingredients smell like. So, I mean, I can do something like that where we can meet and then you can try some of the materials here to have an idea, and then see if there's even something that you want to pursue, because it can be really expensive. I don't even I don't even want to look at how much I'm spending in these materials here, but I would say if you're curious about it, but you're not sure if you want to get into perfume making, I would say get some samples. You can go to Eden Botanical, Perfumer Supply House, Perfumer Apprentice, White Lotus Aromatics. Perfume Supply House, for example, they have a good program. Eden Botanical too, where you spend about a certain amount and then you get free 5 free samples, for example. Um, like that's like an additional 5 to 6 new samples that you can try. I would recommend only getting samples, and then smelling them to have a good idea of what they smell like, and then go from there. Rich, yes, I can send you my email, and then we can go from there. But yes, it'll be fun to kind of meet with other people in Minnesota. I thought I was the only one in Minnesota that was into fragrances, but after meeting my friend again, I'm trying to respect his privacy there. Uh, it's fun meeting sometime and kind of talking fragrances. So, all right, let me see. Carl, is there a fragrance you find to be intimate or sexual? All right, so fragrances that are intimate and sensual. It depends. Some people think that civet is essential. I'm sure if I wear something like that, my wife is going to kick me out. But I think that is sensual. So it really depends on what you call sensual. If you want something that is clean, and that most people will enjoy, there is this fragrance by um, Tiziana Terenzi. It's kind of, I think it is overpriced though. It's called Teal. It is really soft, close to the skin, has a beautiful airy aroma to it, but is really pleasant. Something that is not really that intrusive, but I think can be appreciated by other people. But intimate and sexual, I would say if you look for things that are a little bit, contain a little bit of animalics in it, it should give you that. But it depends on your taste. Uh, Therapeutic fragrance, Brandon. Yes, yeah, I'm close to the Twin Cities. Hey, Stefan, thanks for joining. Do you like Kuros? I love Kuros. I think I have. Rich is asking if I like Kuros. Yes. I like the original, but I think I love the fresher version a lot better. Slightly cleaner, but still preserves that gross DNA to it. And I also have the cologne version. I'm trying to see if I have it here. Thank you. This is the cologne sport. Oh, where did I put? All right, give me a second. Well, now I can't find my bottle, my vintage bottle of Kuros. The heck. But I have the Cologne Sport here, and then but I think my favorite will be the fresher version. Rich, which one do you like? Do you like the original? They have a lot of like fresher versions there. So I'm curious to know which one you like, Rich. Yeah, I don't think Brendan is therapeutic fragrance. I don't think he's um in Minneapolis. Hey, Gunmetal, thanks for joining. Okay, so the question from Gunmetal: with the current IFRA limitations, do you have a personal price ceiling of how much you would pay for a bottle of perfume? So, are you talking about the new? Well, there's there they just issued a not an amendment, but a set of updates to the IFRA regulations there. I would say I'm trying to connect the dots between the two pricing and the IFRA regulations in terms of what is in there, maybe. I would say, like, regardless of those, though, I would say, well, at the beginning of my fragrance journey, I used to buy things that were really expensive because I was curious. I wanted to know what made it um, that expensive. Is it the materials and stuff like that? A new marketing and all that was part of the pricing structure and stuff like that. But nowadays, for example, I don't see myself buying $1,000 fragrance, to be honest. Um, Even 500, it has to be really good, and it has to be something that I don't already have in my uh, in my collection. If even if I go down to $250, still it'll be a really tough sell. Now, for how it depends on the house, like Arish Dore and then Bortnikov and then Dixit and Zach, for example, some of the ingredients and then the provenance and stuff like that, I can understand shelling down much money because they produce in smaller quantities. It's hard to get afterwards, things like that. But for niche fragrance houses that are mostly mainstream, I don't see myself spending that amount of money. Um, if I were to go back, some of the vintage fragrances like Bellamy, and then comparing it to some of the Roja interpretation and stuff like that, or some of the Guerlain and stuff like that, I don't think I would have spent that much money on some of the Roja. Don't get me wrong, they're fantastic. Sometimes I feel like some of the Roja are more beefed up versions of some of the vintages, and then they have a place there. Although I'm not talking about pricing, but still, if I was aware of that and I took my time, I think I would have thought twice before buying some of the Roja that I have. But now that I have them, I'm just enjoying them. There's no point in regretting that. But I'm learning from that, and going forward, it's going to be really hard for me to shell that much money. Now, in terms of regulations, though, I think the IFRA thing, some of the rules change a little bit. If I remember correctly, yeah, I still have to go through that like line by line to understand what they're doing. But some of the restrictions got loosened up a little bit, so it wasn't all bad. I think Eugenol got increased a little bit as well. So I don't think some of the updates were all that bad in some instances. For example, I know that I can't recall right now, but there's an ingredient that is really critical to creating white floral cores, for example, and now they're allowing a little bit more of that. So that is exciting news, for example. But for pricing right now, I'm trying to be more conscious of how much I spend on fragrances, and then if it's worth it. Um, I sample a lot more just to make sure it's something that works really well for me. Because right now the hype around some of the houses are crazy. Um, you're stuck in between. Okay, you got to buy now, or you won't get it ever, or you just lose it and then cry later if you don't get it. If you end up loving it and you don't get it. So yeah, okay. I think you missed Yakuba's question about the best seller from your collection. Oh yes, okay. So I think I missed that. Sorry, Yakuba. Let me see if I can find it. Where is that? Okay, so Yakuba, okay. What's your bestseller from Motif? Will you do Bespoke one day? Yes. My bestseller, which still shocks me, is Murmur, Chypre, and then the Toma Azuma, which is kind of strange because I thought those were a little bit on daring side. I still try to maintain things to the point where it's still wearable, but I thought those were kind of out of character for most people. But people end up loving that one, and then I only have five, one, two, five bottles of the Toma Azuma, and then of Murmur Shipwreck. So those are my best sellers. And then the question about Bespoke, yes. And I'm already doing that for somebody. I don't think he wants me to um, say his name, but or the idea that I'm working on. But I'm working on a fragrance only for him. At this point, we'll see if he changes his mind and then wants to just me to release that in the line and then go from there. But I've been working on that, and then for about 3 months, and I have the base structure. So now that is matured and macerated, I'm gonna send him small vials, and he will try those, and then let me know if I was able to hit the main point that he's looking for, and then he will write a bunch of notes on what he likes to be stretched out a little bit or more prominent, what he didn't like in the composition, what feeling is missing from the composition, and then when I get the notes back, then I'll add on to the base structure and then go from there. So right now I'm doing that. He kind of requested. I never planned to do that. Actually, he kind of requested that when he heard that I was working on my own brand, and I ended up I accepting because I love the idea. It's something that I wasn't familiar with, or the ingredients that were supposed to go in it are things that I wasn't familiar with. So I ended up ordering a bunch of materials just to play with. Ended up spending weeks learning them, putting them together, and then now I have something like a base structure that I can send to him and he can evaluate that and we'll go from there. But it does take time. It's not pre-made. I don't have pre-made accords and then just blend them and then just send it. I want it to be as close as possible to what the person wants. So it's going to be an iterative process. But yeah. So yeah, if you're interested, let me know. Then I can work on something. Yeah, Yakuba is in Wisconsin. We need to go there. We're so close. Rich, you're looking for a vintage Kuros? I think I have a splash bottle. I might have gone crazy and had a backup bottle. So let me see if I can. I'll have to dig in my in some of my boxes, and then see if I have an extra. I will. I will. Yeah, I would email you. Then we'll go from there. Joe, what do you find to be the hardest ingredient to work with? Um, Let me see. Let me think about that. Okay, so let me say, like the first time when I first started, and the question is, what is the hardest, like the hardest ingredient to work with? For me, when I first started, was Birch Star. For some reason, I didn't want to dilute it because I wanted to work with it at 100%. And I learned quickly that it can ruin your formula with no way of recovering it. So that one still at this point, it's like the first time I tried it, and after that, I still get that freaking burned meat barbecue type of smell attached to it that I don't like. But there are some facets from it that I want to use in some of the fragrances, animatic fragrances that I'm planning on working on. But here, so far, I've like even with the dosage, it's like me dosing it and reducing it and reducing it. And when I try it in a formula, I'm having a hard time coming with a balance that I really like. So that's one that I'm still struggling with. Um, Umbrain is really thick and then gooey. It's hard to kind of use it. You have to warm it a little bit to be able to pour it in fragrances, but it's kind of messy to work with. So that is more messy than harder to work with, I guess. Um, but to answer your question though, the materials is a set of materials that I have a really hard time working with. Musks, like white musks. I can smell it for a couple of seconds, and after that, I can't smell anything. So for me, it's hard to evaluate like the progression, and then in a fragrance, what it does. I can kind of see an effect, but I'm kind of scared to use that because I don't know if other people are going to be able to perceive some of the facets from the musk that I'm not able to. So it's really hard for me to work with some of the musk. For example, I'll smell it 3 seconds and I'm like, okay, where's the smell? And I'll try to pick something that smells really pungent to offset to reset my nose, and then go back to the musk again, and then try to kind of feel what I'm smelling. But I have such a short window that it makes a pain in the ass to work with, and I don't want to overdose that stuff either. So I would say musks in general, and I'm still learning about them as well. So Gunmetal is asking, will you make your version of Crabtree and Evelyn extract of Mysore? So that's funny that you asked that. I really love that fragrance, and it's actually one of my favorite discoveries of 2019. I have it here. I'm going to be sharing that in a little bit. But for those who are not aware of, this is an old fragrance from the house of Crabtree and then Evelyn. And this one is called Extrait de Bois de Santal, extract of Mysore sandalwood. I don't know if you can see the writing in it, but right there maybe. But essentially, it's a beautiful Mysore sandalwood with ashy tones attached to it, slightly soapy, but light florals. The focus is on the sandalwood. Sandalwood as a note, when you use it in compositions, it tends to add a texture to the fragrance, but it doesn't stand out that much. You're gonna have something that is creamy, smooth, but also depends on the type of sandalwood. Um, and I'm gonna be doing a separate video about different types of sandalwood. I have sandalwood from India, and then I have what they call like there's another East India, I think, but it's not really sandalwood. And then they have Hawaiian sandalwood. They have Australian sandalwood and then New Caledonia sandalwood as well. They all have different scent profile. For example, Australian sandalwood, it will give you a beautiful opening. You have a slightly creamy scent profile of sandalwood, but in the dry down, it becomes more woody than giving you the spices and then the still creamy tones that you get out of Mysore sandalwood, for example. Hawaiian sandalwood, to me, is my favorite, especially when you mix it with Indian sandalwood. Hawaiian sandalwood has a beautiful balance between the spices, but also the creamy side of things there. And then Caledonia sandalwood is kind of like Hawaiian sandalwood, but is better behaved. So it's a lot more refined than that. I'm gonna be touching on the finer differences between those type of sandalwood later on. But usually when you use that in a fragrance, especially when you're using it with other notes that are bold, it tends to stay in the background and add a texture to it. But in this fragrance here is the main component, so it's easy to enjoy, like a sandalwood centric fragrance here. So to answer your question, Rich, I'm working on I'm kind of hesitant on that one. I don't have it full fledged, like all fleshed out yet, but it's gonna be either a limited release or something. I will see if it's something that I can sustain. So it is centered around my trip to India. I went to Mumbai, New Delhi, and then Jaipur. Jaipur is my favorite city to be in. Some of the castles are just amazing. So it's gonna be centered around my trip there. So it's gonna be centered around a slightly animalic sandalwood. And I'm using several sandalwoods, stocking them to kind of give me the effect that I'm looking for. It's going to contain Indian sandalwood. It's going to contain Hawaiian sandalwood and other components as well. But the meat is going to be made of some type of floral course to it. And then this one, I'm trying to make it sandalwood focused with some spices and then florals, but I'm trying to make the sandalwood stand out. So it's going to be something along the line of the Crabtree and Evelyn extract, the Mysore, in a sense that it's going to be sandalwood dominant, but it's not going to be more of how to say that, a thin version of that. It's going to be a beefier version of that. And I'm going to be needing some feedback on that, so you know who I'm going to be asking about that, because I know you love that fragrance. So it's going to be a good exercise to see if it lives up to what I'm trying to do. And I know you're honest. You don't mind being honest, so I love that. Ashback, thanks for coming. Let me see. I think there are more questions. 120 ml. Love the name. Do you have any favorite Monsteras? Yes, to date, and I've not explored the house extensively, but to date, my favorites are Sicily. Let me grab that. It is beautiful. So this one right here, Sicily. This Montera is amazing. Citruses, florals. It works really well during spring and summer, and it lasts a long time. This is my favorite so far. But like I said, they have so many fragrances in their portfolio to the point where, um, from what I've been able to try, I would say I'm a newbie to the house. But so far, the one that I love is Sicily. It's a beautiful, fresh, citrusy, floral type of scent that lasts a long time. It's really well done. And I have Black Golda as well, but this one, I love it. Oh, dropping stuff here. I love it, but I only wear it during winters, and I still have that. So thanks for stopping by, Ashfaq. All right. Oh yes, Brennan. Yes, therapeutic fragrances, vintage cruise sounds like a great topic to talk about. Yes, we should. And then on that note, next week I'll be doing a live stream with Brendan from Therapeutic Fragrances, and then we're going to be talking about vintage fragrances. We're bringing Loaded Men for Men, Rich. But we're going to be talking about vintage fragrances in general that we have in our collection as part one. And then for part two is going to be probably on Brendan's channel there. And then we're going to go into details on some of our favorite vintage fragrances. So that's exciting. I'm going to put a reminder at some point there. So for those who are interested in vintage fragrances, or some of the vintage fragrances that I think are really well done and then can easily pass as niche fragrances that you can still find for a good price, you have to tune in. All right. Whole hang. I still have to try that. Kashmir Weave, thanks for joining. Ashrak, I will leave the stream up. What's it? Okay, Yakuba, what is your 2020 wish list? Um, so for 2020, most of the fragrances that I'm looking forward to is a really low number because I don't have enough funds to do that right now. Anything that I'm going to be getting in 2020 is going to be an offset against what I already have in my collection here. I know I want to get some Sultan Pasha. Last time I looked, and then somebody might be able to answer here. Last time I looked on Sultan Pasha's website, Oram the Encore is gone. I freaked out when I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. And that is like really high on my list. And I think there's another one that is calling Jura that I'm really interested in. Uh, and then I know Arish Ladora is going to be releasing stuff. I know that Dixit and Zach are going to be releasing stuff as well. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on those houses. Same thing with Bortnikov. Um, what is another fragrance that I wanted to get? It's like up top of my head, the main ones are essentially from Dessert. Um, there's a citrus based fragrance that I'm looking forward to getting from the House of Dessert. I think it's called Misu. And then from Sultan Pasha, Uram the Encore, if it's still available. Yakuba, thank you. I I can't tell you, like I almost lost sleep over it because I was like, what the heck is it? It's gone? And then it wasn't even listed on his website. So I was okay temporarily. Okay, that's good to know because I was freaking out for a couple of days. I was like, the one thing that I was like obsessed with, and then for lack of fun, I didn't buy that. So I'm gonna make sure I grab it when Rum the Encore is back. Ensemble Shippo 2 is wonderful. That one actually, if I get it, is gonna be something that is probably gonna replace one of my favorite from the uh, Creed line. I love Bois de Portugal, and then Ensemble Shipper has there's some aspect of it that reminds me of the aura or the vibe that I get out of Bois de Portugal. But Bois de Portugal, I mean, is from Creed there. Ensemble Shipper is on another level. So that one definitely as well. So if you don't mind commenting, let me know what you're looking forward to getting in 2020. That's the first question. In 2020, what are the fragrances that you're looking forward to buying? And then the second question is, what houses will you keep a close eye on? For me, it's gonna be Dixit and Zach here, Arish Ladore, of course, and then Bortnikov as well. The House of Dissel, well, it's pronounced Dissel, but it's written Dessert. And then East Usaka as well. So another question here. Hello, Chrissy. Thanks for joining. Have you tried any fragrances from Ducida? Yes. My favorite to date, and I'm not completely updated as far as their recent releases go, but my favorite is called Isara. It's a fantastic fragrance. Oud Infinite took me a while to get used to. I have a small atomizer of that one, and now that I get it, I love that one. But my favorite so far is Isara, and I have a full bottle here. Um, Yeah. So right here. So Isara, this one is wonderful. Um, it, it's something that you can wear as a signature scent. I'm afraid to use that because I don't want to run out, and it's kind of expensive. But it's something that is really classy, modern. It's like a fresh breath of air every time I smell it. It's just wonderful. I did receive a couple of samples from the house, so I'm gonna be reviewing those soon. Um, uh, Trying to keep up with the house there, but she does fantastic floral fragrances, Christy. Yes, Christy, I'm looking forward to sampling more from Lucida. They are so smoothly blended. Yes. The first time I tried, I don't remember exactly what the name is, but it was like a wet white floral type of fragrance, and it was so realistic, smooth and well blended. She does a really fantastic job with her florals and other fragrances as well. So definitely worth sampling. And I have a set of samples. I'm gonna be touching on the house later on. Oh yes, so Oud Infinite. Demba is saying Oud Infinite is real funk. It is. The first time I tried it, I was like, hell no. It took me about 2 years to come around when I started exploring other indie ooze and stuff like that. And then I got gradually bored of what was smelling really nice and I was exploring other stuff. I kind of came around to it. But the first time I smelled it, I was like, hey, what is that? It's like, that's not perfume, it's art, but it's not wearable. And then 2 years later, I was like, dang, that's really good. Um, Gunmetal, quite curious about perfume Prisana too. Yes, it's a house that I always wanted to get into. It seems like he's really creative from the posts that I've seen. He tends to create fragrances that are unfamiliar or the way he twists things. And then I'm hearing that he's really good at making cheaper fragrances or foresty notes or accords, I should say. So I definitely need to explore the house. But I think he has. Well, okay, you're talking about Perfume Persona though. I think he has different houses. So I need to explore more. So Yakuba is saying, "Good question, Oz. To be honest, I'm looking forward to slowing down, keeping a close eye on motif. Thank you, thank you. That's a big compliment." Bortnikov and then Dixit. Yes, I can see that. Especially at the point where we're at right now, I'm assuming most people here have been in this journey a long time. Um, like you get excited at the beginning, but then later on, you realize it's not something that is sustainable. Um, and then you start you start learning a lot more about your taste. You start to refine where your interest lies, and then you go that way. I think that's a lot more sustainable. I think most of us, though, are now collectors. We just love the idea of trying new things. That's what I realized a little bit later. I'm not a collector at all. I love trying new things. So samples will do for me at this point. And if I really love something, then I'll buy it. So yeah, so I can definitely understand what you mean by slowing down, taking your time, sampling something that catches your curiosity there, and then go from there. If it's something that you want, then you get it. If not, then it's not a big deal. I think at that point you're more confident in what you should get for yourself or not, then you're not heavily relying on reviewers. Because the thing is about reviewers, and then everybody included, it doesn't matter if you're more on the commercial side or you're more on about sharing the passion and stuff like that. We're pretty much sharing our blueprint and then what our perceptions are of a fragrance. Now is you guys' job to take that and then reframe it in your point, like in your like framework, and then kind of assess and see if it frames back into your perspective really well or not. and decide if it's something that you want to pursue, explore more or not. But the key thing is we're just sharing our journey's blueprint, but it's not something that should be imitated or taken too seriously. The only thing is like knowing your reviewer so that you know when they're describing something as being floral, they actually mean it is floral, less floral. And then you kind of reframe that in your perspective to know, okay, I don't like florals. I know that this guy loves florals. So it's definitely going to be something that is too floral for me. And by reframing that in your perspective or your frame there, you're able to determine if it's something that you want to pursue, sample, or not sample at all. I'm kind of going off on a tangent there. Sorry about that. Uh, Oscar, yes. So there are a lot of houses, a lot of releases, a lot of redundant stuff. So definitely take your time, sample, and then decide what is worth your time. Because money and time is limited. Rich, I want to look into Rosendo Mature number 5. Yes, number 5, I tried really fantastic. Actually, the whole line is well blended, which surprised me a bit because I didn't expect that from a perfumer that was in a corporate type of structure. But the way he's blending, and then, well, he has the skill set, but the notes that he's choosing and the style that he's bringing throughout the line, they're really interesting. I did a review on number 1. I have samples of number 5 and then a couple of others that I need to review as well. So, Christy, so which fragrance do I want to try of yours for spring? Hearing a lot about Nectar Boisé. Okay, so Christy, I'm curious to know what type of fragrances you like. So, Nectar Boisé, the idea behind it is fruits, sweet, like a tinge of greenness in the background, cedar wood, and then some woods to kind of balance the sweetness. So if you don't like sweet fragrances, you might not enjoy that one as well. But then I would say for spring, if you love greener fragrances like vetiver, I have one that is coming out that is more geared towards that season there, like spring and summer, because it's fresher, complex, not too heavy, and it revolves around vetiver. So if you love vetiver, I would say try that one when it comes out. Get a sample, try it, and then see if it's something that you enjoy. Otherwise, um, something that can work for that season, I would say Monoue's is actually more geared towards spring. Lavender, and then some smooth musk attached to it. So Demba says Rosana Madrid number 1 is one of the best amber floral I discovered so far. Yes, in that category is really good. The number 5. Bryce. Hope I'm pronouncing it properly. I'm just looking forward to sampling. I'll be honest, I've never tried many of the fragrances you all are mentioning. I'm just interested in trying more. So, Bryce, here's the thing. Um, don't feel bad about not knowing what most people are talking about because myself, if you throw me at the mall and then you ask me to describe any of the fragrances that are there, I'm not gonna be able to do that. The reason why I've not tried some of the designer or most of the designers is because I have a limited budget. So I can't stretch up between buying niche fragrances and then also getting designer fragrances. So I have to choose where my money goes and is limited. So most of the fragrances that I'm talking about are kind of niche, a little bit obscure sometimes. And then most of the time when I watch reviews about a designer fragrance, I have no clue what they're talking about. I know what they're describing, but as a point of reference, I don't have it. Especially when they start talking about the flankers, I'm like, I have no idea of what the base or the initial release was, so I can't even talk to that. So I'm sure if you put me in a room of fraggots and stuff like that, and then we're having conversation, 90% of the conversation is going to be lost. I'm going to be lost because most of the fragrances that they're going to be talking about, I'm not familiar with. So definitely, and it comes with the hobby. There's no way you're going to be able to try everything or like 90% of what people are talking about. Of course, mainstream is more popular. So if you lean towards that, you're most likely going to be aware of whatever is there to a greater degree. But if you're somebody who is really precise in what you want to sample and stuff like that, is going to be dispersed. And you're going to have the feeling or the sensation that um, you're missing out. But uh, really, if you ask anybody, I'm sure there are a lot of fragrances that they've not tried, especially with the amount of fragrances that are out there. So I would say if something catches your, I would say don't just sample because somebody's talking or hyping it. If it sounds good to you, just go ahead and sample it. Don't feel like it's a competition. Sometimes it feels like that in this community. So I like the idea. Just lay back, sample whatever you can, whenever it's possible, and then go from there. Oh, Rich, yes, kerosene fragrances. There's one that I tried, and I thought it was really well done. So hopefully this year I can get a bunch of samples on some of these houses and then share my thoughts too. Rich said, Bryce, excited part of the journey you are right now. Yes, that's true. When you feel that you've not sampled a lot, you're still excited about stuff. You get to the point where you've sampled so much, depending on where you fall. Like if you sample a lot of niche fragrances, for example, you get to the point where it's really hard to find something that makes you want to fork out the money. You're a little bit more conservative there. Um, and then some of the releases are just not making it. So for you, so it's an exciting time, like Rich said. So enjoy it. Yes. So catch my whiff. That's a really great advice there. You just have to pace yourself. When I started collecting, before I knew I was more interested in sampling than collecting, a year into that or 2 years into that, I still had boxes still wrapped, unopened, sitting in freaking boxes somewhere that I've not even opened because of the like. You get into a routine where you see something, you're like, oh, this is interesting, you get it. This is interesting, you get it, and then you don't even try it. So definitely pace yourself. So Yakuba, did you teach yourself how to make perfume? Do you have a favorite perfumer you would love to learn from one day if you had a chance? Yes. So yeah, I had to teach myself. So like learning perfumery, I would say is at the is an intersection between art, so being creative, science, knowing your materials, and then the reactions between them. And then if you decide to launch something, then the business aspect of it, there are a lot of things that I had to learn when I was trying to launch the brand, like trying to allocate my funds and knowing where the money, the budget should be heavier or not. Um, so I decided on the materials and stuff like that. I focus on that, and then gradually later on, if I need to, I would change the presentation and have a maybe a fancier bottle there. So definitely the business side, I had to learn a lot. Like when I was teaching myself how to do perfumery, the perfuming, it was self-taught. I read couple of books that were teaching you like the overall idea of how you go about evaluating ingredients from top to bottom throughout the day and stuff like that, how you put them together. And then you go on websites like the Good Sense Company, where they'll have demo formulas where you say, okay, I want to try to create like a floral, powdery floral. And then they will give you elements that are able to give you that effect. So you try to replicate that to see if it's in alignment with what you perceive as a powdery floral, and then you tweak it from there to kind of learn how the materials are modifying that base structure or whatever. But essentially, if you want, yeah, I'm self-taught and I'm still learning a lot. um Basically is a lot of evaluating materials. So you would take a material like that. um where are my scent strips? Okay, so you have scent strips here, and then one ingredient that I'm evaluating right now, because I'm trying to create something that is for summer, but I don't want a typical citrus top note. So this one is really interesting because at the top it has a lemony, citrusy qualities, but it has also camphorous like facets attached to it. So what I would do is just put a little bit here, smell the top notes. Like right now, all I'm getting is a beautiful lemony camphorous smell with a woody note attached to it and some camphor. So I will write down what I get initially when I smell it, and I know the percentage at which I'm smelling it. So this one is 100%. So it's not diluted. Sometimes when you dilute some of the materials, it will smell different than what you have at 100%. Some of other facets kind of show up when you dilute it. So I would do that at 100%. I would do that at a different strength, and I'll write down what I get in the at the beginning, the mid, an hour later, 2 hours later, and then 5 hours later, and I note how long it lasts and stuff like that. Okay, and then I have a good idea of what this smells like. So it's lemony. There's a freshness attached to it. There are camphors attached to it. So okay, what else can I add to this? Then I'll take a bunch of other um, greener notes, for example. So I can take fear balsam, which is camphorous. I can use pine. And then what I would do is I would just, so yeah, so you're not wasting materials. So you will use another scent strip here, and then you put these ones have droppers. Typically, they open. So I have pine here, so I'll write pine here, so I'm not mixing things up, and then I'll go and then add them like that. So right now I'm getting a soft pine note that is smooth with a strong woody notes attached to it, but it's complementing the lemony character and comforts character of the Melissa ingredient here. And then one thing that you can do is putting them at different distances to know if you're putting them at the same dosage or you're having something, another element being uh, lower in percentage in your formula in different distances, so you have an idea of what it smells like and if it pairs. So if I smell this and I don't like the combination, for example, I won't pair these two. So you go through iterations like that. So that's why I'm saying there's no actual shortcut to learning. You just have to evaluate each ingredient, see how it pairs. As you build that library, what happens is you can take one ingredient and immediately you can see the link between other elements that have overlapping facets with that single ingredient that you're trying to work with, and you go from there. So yeah, so I was self-taught then, and that's how I learned it. You go onto forums. Sometimes you make something and then you get something that you're not expecting. That's why you take a lot of notes so you can go back and then see what ingredient is causing that. When you have no idea, sometimes you have to go into forums and then ask um, for advice there and then go from there. So it's a lot of learning time, uh, taking notes, clear notes, so that you can refer to them later. Okay, Bo Chosen, thanks for joining. Forgive the odd question, but I've always been curious to know where you live, what state. So I'm in the US and then I'm in Minnesota, in the middle of no, not nowhere, but like with the snow and all that. Hey, Jace, be swift. Hello, I was just on Peter's stream. Oh yeah, he was. I saw that too. It popped up. I got the notification on my phone too. Thanks for joining. Kashmir Weave, I appreciate that the alcohol you use in your line doesn't smack me in the face. It's very smooth. Thank you. And then, so to talk to that, perfumers, alcohol, but then the key there though is to let it age correctly. So what I'll do the concentrate. So the concentrate is essentially putting all the essential oils or the ingredients together based on the formula that I already have, and I'll let the concentrate, only the oils, sit for about a month, for example. And then after a month, I'll add the perfumer's alcohol, and I have a magnetic stir here, so I'll let it spin, try to mix things together, and I'll store it away for like a month or two, sometimes 3 months, depending on the ingredients that you're using. If I'm using a lot of resins, a lot of absolutes, for example, I'll let it sit for a long time so it has time to actually mingle really well with the perfumer's alcohol. But to your point, though, the first time you put alcohol in anything, you're going to have a rough type of piercing feel attached to it. It dissipates as the fragrance sits in the alcohol over time. So that's why it's really important to let it mature and macerate. Yakuba, yes, it is a lot of moving parts, but it is really fun. Now, it is fun when you're doing that, not in a serious way. Once you start bringing business in it, the only fun time is when you actually hear formulating and stuff. But once you, that is, I would say, formulating is about maybe 20-30% of the journey. And then you have to take care of the business side of things, and it is really time consuming and stuff like that. But it's really interesting, nonetheless. But chosen, I actually thought you may have been from Minnesota. Yes, I am. Okay, in PA. Awesome, thanks. Yes, catch my whiff. Actually, I did do that. So let me read the comment here. Catch my whiff says, um, Yakuba, look for Laura Dillon. Her channel is all about making fragrances. She talks like Oswald. Yes, and then they're really fun to watch too. They are It's really fun to watch the live streams, and then they take time to read the question, answer the questions. When I was learning, and until till this day, whenever they have their live shows, I join and I watch them. There's always something to learn, and it's a relaxed format too, so I really like that. So the channel is called Alora and Dylan. Christy, yes, it is. It is actually fun to see it do the what is it called? Like I forget the name in English. Tourbillon. Yeah, I forgot the name in English. Sorry. Uh, okay, Alex, what notes are you looking forward to working with? So far, the sandalwood fragrance that I'm working on, I'm really excited about that. It is a challenge, like I said, hard to make it stand out. But the different types of sandalwood and coming with an accord, a natural sandalwood accord, that is at the same time familiar but they're really different. I'm excited to do that. And then this material here, the Melissa material, I'm trying to create something for summer that is fresh, um, like citrusy leaning fragrances, but I don't want a typical bergamot opening. So that, um, Ruqueta, I'm excited to use that one. I'm already using that in the limited release that is going to come out towards the mid or end of the year this year. So Ruqueta is something that I discovered this year and I love it. Um, so that I already used that, but essentially it's going to be around the Melissa flower, Melissa ingredient, and then the sandalwood notes. Oh yeah, another one is white lotus. I just got that as well, a couple of months back, and then it's something that I am planning on using as well. So, hey Rob, thanks for joining. Gunmetal, thank you for joining. Oh, I've been here for an hour and a half. I better. I'll be leaving soon too. I have to go help my daughter with some stuff. Whoa, Yakuba. Okay, so I want something with kara grande. I gotta write that down. I'm always curious and willing to learn. How do you pronounce that? Caro. What is it called? Caro Carunde. I might need to contact you to get more information about this one. The note that or the smell that you're talking about. Yakuba. All right, Christy. I'm making small solid fragrances for women rehab center. Oh, that's awesome. I only want to I only want to make fragrances. The business part is overwhelming. Yes, the business part of doing the business part in fragrance making is yeah, is complicated. Talking about being able to so at this point, what I'm doing when I'm formulating, I don't look at the pricing because I don't want to restrict myself to a cap and then miss out on some of the ingredients. But the reality is, though, for most people, it wouldn't make sense to create something that is too expensive to the point where most people wouldn't buy. So there's a cost aspect of it. Then there's like stocking material aspect of it. It's like you don't want to stock in, materials and not be able to use that fully later. Then you have to find people to actually buy it or be interested in it. So there's a marketing aspect attached to it, exposure and all that. Um, then if you have to comply with certain regulations as well, you have to learn those. Calculating pricing in itself too is one of the most stressful things as well. So there are a lot of moving parts, and I can understand that, Christy. Um, but the thing that I learned though, that makes it manageable is you just have to take your time. Sometimes you just get excited and then you want everything to be done at once, and then that's where the pressure comes into play, and then it feels really stressful. But if you give yourself time, some of the things wouldn't feel like pressure. But yeah, still obstacle to surmount there, Christy. That's cool that you're working on solid perfumes and then rehab center. That's pretty cool. I work part of the business that I work in. We work a lot with mental health cases, and it's the most satisfying thing for me. I left a job that was really technical, but I didn't feel fulfilled in it. So I ended up joining this company because of how they were able to help other people, and then I play a big role in that. So that's cool to read that, Christy. Alex is asking what note is that. Seems like I'm not the only one who doesn't know what it is. Release. Alex is asking, do you have a new bottle presentation for the summer release? So I've been playing with the idea of changing the bottle presentation, making a custom cap, but also metal plates. But it's still in. I'm still in the process of sourcing somebody who will be able to do that. so that the cap color matches the color of the collar, and then also the metal plaque. So I don't think it's going to be ready for summer yet. I was thinking about doing that too for the limited line, to give something slightly different to people that are interested in that or value presentation quite a bit. But I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to finish that by the time I release these, but we'll see. But I'm already having some drawings, and I'm already contacting people to see if they can deliver. So a custom cop and then metal label. So we'll see. But I'm definitely thinking about that. That will be the next step. That's a good question, Alex. Oh gosh, Yakuba is giving another name. Alex, it seems like you're supposed to know what they what this smells like or what it is. Wusulan. Wusulan. What is this? All right, I'm writing these because I gotta find out what it is. Kashmir Wef. I don't know if it is a good note to have in a frag world or how it could be done, but I like the smell of Crayola. Crayola crayon. I'm sure you can have an accord like that. That's really specific. You're having now my wheels are spinning. Pencil shavings, Crayola, crayons. Now I have to go dig in my daughter's stuff to figure out what it smelled like. So, Kashmir, with what, like in few words, how would you describe the smell of Crayola crayons? Like from your point of view, and then I'll go try that and then see what I'm getting. But that's interesting. All right, Christy is so much. Yes, a lot of things. The only thing to do is to take it one step at a time. Thank you, Christy. Tutti Frutti. What are you selling? I'm new here and no idea what you're selling and what it does. Right now, I'm not selling anything. I was just chatting about fragrances, and I'm just reading comments and then just interacting with people here. Like any questions? Yeah, and then yeah, I have my own line of fragrances. Okay, so catch my whiff, sort of dusty wax. Okay, there are some notes that can do that. Orris, butter can give that with a lower percentage of ions. And then, so you're saying dusty wax and card box. The card box part might be difficult. I'll do some research, but that's interesting. That's definitely an interesting thing to work on. It's just to have fun. I'm sure I will learn a lot in the process. Alex, so you don't know, huh? Okay, so I guess we're on the same boat here. Maybe we need to talk to Yakuba offline to have an idea. Because if I Google and I don't find anything, yeah, I'll probably have to ask him. Tutti Frutti. So yeah, he's asking, does he have men's cologne? Yes. So most of them are unisex. Um, so I would say a sample pack to start with, just to have an idea of what it is and if it's a scent profile that you like. But I would say most of them are unisex. Um, I'm trying to think which one leans. All of them I would wear. My wife wears all of them except Voile d'Ensemble. She thinks it's a little bit more masculine. But I think with the fruity accords and then the rhubarb note there, it is unisex, but and then the rose and pear type of smell, the fruity note, will be unisex. But she finds it hard to wear voile d'ensemble. But anything else she's able to wear, so I would say it's unisex. Oh, Christy is giving tips here. So candle wax and then powdery iris. Yeah, so that's what I was referring to. So Oris can give that idea too. But yeah, okay, crayons. Okay, that's another good description. So candle, wax, and then iris. Thanks, Christy. That helps. Comfort and Sense. Thanks for joining. I hope you have fun trying those. Thanks. Tutti Frutti, yes, I have a website. Let me write that down. Here is motif. If I can type properly. There. Oh, I did not see that question. Sorry. Alex, thanks for mentioning that. Will you do a fragrance collab with Peter? So Peter, I talk to Peter quite often. Great guy. I don't think he's interested in working with other people or doing a collab. For me, I think it will be a great experience, like to have different perception about sense from two different people and bringing it all together at the end and then seeing how it fits together. That would be really interesting. At this point in my journey, I wouldn't refuse anything unless I can't do it for lack of time or lack of funds. But I'll consider anything that helps me learn more. That's a really great question. Yeah, but I think it will be be really cool to do that with Peter because he's a lot more picky than I am. He has a particular taste. Although though his releases, some of the accords that he has is in his releases are some things that I thought he did not enjoy, like the green facets and stuff like that. But he made a fragrance that he really enjoys that has those facets. But I think it will be a really good exercise to go through that. So I don't mind the to answer that. I don't mind doing that at all. Catch my whiff. I forgot to mention your bottles I eat are really simple and elegant. Yes, that's what I was trying to go for lack of budget there. But I was trying to still get something that was decent. Um, and then later on, if people are really need something that is more elaborate, then I can think of that. I'm already looking at custom caps and label. Um, so yeah, we'll see where that goes. But thanks though. Oh yes, Jonathan, you're saying Russian Atom and Taha of Agarora. Yep, is doing a collab. I think might have told you about that. Yes, you did mention that. I think in one of your previous comments. That's really exciting. It'd be interesting to see if he'll be able to pull Adam out of his comfort zone, and then if they can create something that is that doesn't have like a typical Aresia Dore DNA. More so recently, Adam has been doing a good job of diversifying some of his scents. It'll be really interesting to see if they can step out of the oud centric, musk centric, animalic centric fragrances and bring something different to the table. Oh, no problem, Jonathan. Okay, so for people that are here, oh wow, almost 2 hours. I guess I'm talking too much, huh? Thanks for being here and chatting. This is really interactive. I've not been able to even share some of my favorite discoveries of 2019. So I'm going to ask people here, um, what fragrances in 2019 did you feel had an impact on you, to the point that you're, of course, well, yeah, let's do either if you got a bottle or not. So I'm curious to know that. So I'm going to be sharing a couple of things here that I got in 2019, not necessarily released in 2019, but that I really enjoy. Koinur from Arèche Doré, fantastic narcotic florals. Now that is aged a little bit, the base is coming. That incensey floral nuance is coming with slightly musky tones there. It's really beautiful. Koinur is something that I really enjoyed in 2019. Um, what else? And then again, from the same house, Oud Luwak coffee and Oud here. And then Baikal Gris. Kind of, a lot of people don't talk about this one. Another beautiful um, ambergris type of foresty type of smell. Is really well done. I think I really like it. So that's what, three fragrances from Arish Ladore, Koinur, Baikal Gris, and then Oud Luwak. Let me see if I can put them here. It's too far back. Okay. And then from the earlier release, War and Peace. So here, I'm not sure. This one didn't give me the impression of that pulling force between like the topic of war and peace, but it's a beautiful leather, powdery, animalic scent. I think is really well done. So War and Peace. That's four now. And then from Bortnikov, Oud Maximus, beautiful oud centric fragrance. Scott is saying Bortnikov, Amber Cologne. That one is really beautiful, floral. Works well for spring, summer. So this one is Oud Maximus from Bortnikov. Um, of course, this extract of Mysore sandalwood from Crabtree and Evelyn. That one is discontinued, but I ended up getting that. Is a beautiful sandalwood with light florals in the background. Um, Wears really nice. And of course, I waited so long, but I ended up trying Samsara by Guerlain here. Beautiful floral sandalwood, just amazing. If you don't mind florals, definitely check this one in terms of floral sandalwood. It's just amazing. Um, Yakuba is saying, Shipro. Oh, I need to. Sorry, I got excited here. I need to explore the house. Yakuba is saying my favorite 2019 release was Shipro Oud Maharani by Ofori. I'm hearing a lot of good things about the house, so I'm gonna write that down. That's interesting. Shipper and Oud Maharani. Okay, so that's really good. Who else? Therapeutic fragrance, Aram Green Hide. I heard about that one too. Lura Esquisse by Bortnikov. DSH Perfumes, Colorado. Endolis. Okay, so yeah, Brendan, it seems like you had a fun 2019. And then you're also saying that the Shipper Oud is amazing as well. So definitely put that on my list there. Um, so Endolis by Aresh Ladori. I don't know what didn't work for me on that one, but it seems like a neat. Well, I think it's sold out now. I'm not sure what put me off with Indolis. Maybe because it was too green. I might need to revisit that one. Okay, Scott is asking if Irish Adore is coming out with another line soon. I'm hearing about collaboration that was mentioned earlier, so I'm guessing that might be coming soon. But I've not heard much. Other fragrances for me in 2019 came on by Dessert, a beautiful, light, citrusy, floral bouquet here. This house here, the House of Dessert, does fantastic transparent fragrances that smell really natural. I really enjoy the house. And of course, I have this shipper here. This one was marketed towards women, um, is a parfum de toilette. I guess they had a different type of concentration back in the day. They call it parfum de toilette, and it's called Jardinelle, and it's by Jean Desprez. And this one is a beautiful, cheaper fragrance, slightly leathery, some sweet florals attached to it. Is really well done. And then Fakama is one I've sampled it before, but I ended up grabbing a bottle of this one. Now that I'm wearing a lot more lately, I feel like the level of sweetness in the first hour or two are kind of heavy-handed. So I'm kind of hesitant to say this is one of my favorite purchases of 2019. Definitely a great fragrance. If you're not sensitive to overly sweet fragrances, this one is packed with that dried fruits, a lot of things. There's a beautiful ginger note in here as well, and rose and oud. So great composition. The sweetness is a little bit borderline for me when it comes to that. And I finally was able to try Dolce Gabbana by Man here. This one, creamy sandalwood and lavender, smells fantastic. Um, and then took me a while to try this one, but this one is Antares by Chanel. This is the newer release, a beautiful triple leather type of fragrance with a mossy type of feel attached to it. Really masculine, smells great. So not a lot of purchases for me. There are a couple bottles that I don't have here. Shibor Siam is amazing as well from Rogue Perfumery. So definitely a good house. So Alex, I'm surprised you like Shibor Siam because I thought it wouldn't be your style, but it's really well done, so you can't fault it. Uh, Jonathan, okay, so is giving us a tip here. Say Arish Ladori usually has a 9 month in between releases, no oud centric releases. Oh, really? That should be interesting. Okay, so Scott is asking, has another tried Aaron's Stearns use fragrances been getting a lot of hype? Yes, a lot of talks about his line. Um, I've not tried anything. I think shipping to the US is not possible at the moment, from what I remember. But yeah, he's getting a lot of light in the community so far. I think Nikhil did a review on some of his fragrances. He did like some of his fragrances. So, but I've not personally tried them yet. Yes, Yakuba is mentioning that he's refusing to sell to the US. Oh, yes. So maybe somebody from the UK, but he sent some samples to Nikhil. If you watch Nikhil, which he has a broad taste there, um, so I'm guessing if he loved them, at least the ones that he sampled, there's something to be curious about. I'm guessing. Yeah. Okay. So I think, wow, thank you guys for being on the live stream. I appreciate you guys making this interactive. I'm glad it wasn't just me going through whatever I have here, and I was able to listen to you guys and learn a little bit more about your taste as well, so that next or subsequent conversations I know who you are and then what you like and then things that you've tried and excited about. Um, Sometimes it's hard to get that connection when you're just reviewing and publishing videos. So I'm really excited to read you guys here. Thanks for joining. So we're going to wrap up in a little bit. If you have any last questions, comments, let me know. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Okay, Scott, could you recommend a good sandalwood fragrance? I've tried Sacred Wood by Killian, didn't do anything for me. Surge of Redo, I tried, but pretty damn expensive. So the question here is, um, recommend a good sandalwood fragrance for Scott. For me, so if you want like by Killian, actually by Killian Sacred Wood by Killian, you can probably make that yourself with a couple of ingredients from Perfumer's Apprentice. Um, it is not that complex. But if you want something that is really authentic, I'm not sure if you're gonna like right. I'm not sure if it's even available. But Rising Mysore is a good one. But the connection that people are making with soap smell, you might not find this one to be really interesting. I find it really interesting with the sandalwood profile that they have here. Um, if you don't mind florals, please try Samsara. This is the EDP version, and then the vintage version has this gold, how to say that, ring around it. So try that if you don't mind floral sandalwoods. Um, Crabtree is like people are selling for a ridiculous amount, so I wouldn't recommend that. Um, Let me see if I can find any other sandalwood centric fragrance. Hmm. Not that I can think of right now, but I would say, yeah. Okay. I'll bring that in. Yeah. Okay. So thank you. Have a great weekend. Uh, Yakuba, thank you. Have a great weekend too. You're so close, Wisconsin. We have to meet you at some point. Thank you, Christy, for hanging out. Kashmir Whiff, thank you. Alex, Shipper Sam was on Shipper that I like, yes. That and Shipper Politan. Okay, Politan. Okay, that's a good one too. Oh, Yakuba, yes. Okay, I can see that with Roja Nua. Are you talking about the new Yakuba? Are you talking about the new Nua or the vintage? I have the new one. Rose and Sandalwood. Oh yeah, Alex, you did talk about Boudicia the Victorious Carbon Sapphire. Boudicia is so expensive. They're coming up with 500, 600 bottle like they're water. Okay, yep. So Yakuba is saying try the Nua. I have that here. Actually, I need to review that. I need to wear more. So that'll be interesting. Catch my week. I'm glad you had a live. Thank you for joining. Okay. All right. Thank you guys. It's been 2 hours. Fantastic chatting with you guys. Thanks for making it and enjoying. Thanks for making the conversation alive here. I can't wait for next time. I think I'm going to be making more of these. If you have specifically targeted topics that you would like to see me do in lives, let me know. Then I will do that. But yeah, I'm gonna try to make more lives where it's more interactive like that. So thank you for joining again. Thanks for your time, and then I hope you all have a great weekend. All right, bye.